Ngozi knew she was in trouble from the moment she saw Emeka. It was during the first week of the National Youth Service Corps, where young people from all over Nigeria came together to serve their country. She had been laughing with some new friends, talking about their home villages. When he walked by, tall, with a quiet confidence and a light-skinned smile that made her heart skip, he glanced her way, and for a moment, their eyes met. She felt her cheeks grow warm and quickly looked away. But later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the camp, they found themselves alone by chance near the campfire. Emeka introduced himself, and his voice was as warm as a smile. They talked for hours, laughing and sharing stories, almost as if they had known each other forever. She didn't realize how much time had passed until she felt the chill of the night air and saw the campfire had burned low. By the next week, they were inseparable. They shared meals, swapped stories, and whispered secrets about their dreams. But there was one thing Ngozi hadn't told him. Her parents had warned her about Emeka's village. Years ago, there had been a fierce dispute over a stretch of land that lay between her village and his. It had started with a few arguments, but soon it turned into a feud. People got hurt, homes were burned, and eventually an unspoken rule emerged. Children from Ngozi's village could never marry those from Emeka's village. It was too risky, too painful to ever consider. When she finally told Emeka, his smile faded, and for the first time, he looked unsure. "Do you think?" he began, but his voice trailed off. Ngozi didn't have to ask what he was thinking. She knew the weight of their situation as much as he did. Now, every time they met, there was a new heaviness in their conversations. Would their families understand? Could the wounds of the past finally heal? Days passed, and Ngozi and Emeka grew closer, but the weight of forbidden love between them grew heavier. Every moment they spent together felt like a stolen treasure, precious but shadowed by fear. Ngozi began to dread the end of their service, the moment they would have to return to their villages and face their families. One quiet evening, as they walked hand in hand near the edge of the camp, Emeka stopped suddenly. "Ngozi," he said, his voice soft but steady, "do you believe love can change things?" She looked up at him, her heart pounding. "I don't know," she whispered, "but I want to believe it can." She wanted to believe their love was strong enough to bridge the deep divide between their families. But she also knew how fiercely her father clung to the past. She could already hear his words echoing in her mind. "We do not mix blood with those who have wronged us." Emeka's hand tightened around hers. "Then let's try," he said, his eyes filled with determination she hadn't seen before. "Let's tell them about us. Maybe our love could be the first step toward peace." Ngozi's heart twisted. She wanted to say yes, but fear gripped her. What if they don't understand, Emeka? What if they never forgive us? He looked at her, his gaze unwavering. "Then, at least, we'll know we tried. We owe it to ourselves, don't we?" Ngozi nodded, though her heart ached with doubt. That night, she lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, imagining all the ways her families might react. She knew her mother would cry, her brothers would likely be furious, and her father's face would turn cold and unyielding. But the thought of a life without Emeka felt even more painful. The next day, they made a plan. They would go to their families one by one, explain their love, and hope that something had changed, that time had softened the hatred between the villages. Ngozi's first visit was to her mother. She watched her mother's face closely as she explained how she had met Emeka, how their love had grown despite the odds. At first, her mother said nothing, simply listened with a solemn expression. When Ngozi finished, her mother sighed deeply and took her hand. "My daughter," she said softly, "I understand the heart chooses who it chooses. But your father, this will not be easy for him." Ngozi felt a glimmer of hope in her mother's words. If her mother could understand, maybe her father could too. Someday, she left with small sense of relief. But her heart still pounded as she waited for the moment she would have to tell her father. A few days later, Emeka faced his family as well. He would later tell Ngozi how his brothers had laughed at first, thinking it was a joke. But when they realized he was serious, the room fell silent. His mother had simply stared at him with disbelief, shaking her head. His father, who had always been quick to anger, had stormed out without a word. Emeka's heart had felt like it was being torn in two, but he held on to the image in Ngozi's face, her voice telling him to believe in love. The day finally came when Ngozi's father found out. Ngozi's father found out in the worst way possible. He had been sitting outside their home with a few village elders, discussing the upcoming festival, when word reached him. Someone, Ngozi wasn't sure who, had let it slip about her and Emeka. By the time she reached home, her father's face was a storm, his jaw set in a hard, unforgiving line. The elder sat silent, eyes narrowed with disapproval, as if Ngozi's secret love was a betrayal to the entire community. Ngozi, her father's voice was low and cold. "Is it true? You've been seeing that boy." She swallowed hard, her heart pounding so loudly she thought everyone could hear it. She glanced around, noticing the shocked stares of the elders, the disapproving looks of her neighbors who had gathered around, curious about the commotion. There was no easy way out of this. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Yes, Papa, it's true. I love him." Her father's face twisted in anger, his voice trembling as he spoke. "How dare you shame me like this? After all we've suffered because of his people, do you not remember the stories I told you? The battles? The lands they stole? Our people's blood has been spilled because of them." Ngozi felt her cheeks flush with a mix of shame and defiance. "Papa, that was so long ago. Emeka is not responsible for what happened. We cannot keep punishing each other for things that happened before we were even born." "Enough!" he roared, his voice echoing across the compound. She could feel the weight of the entire village's eyes on her, judging her, condemning her for daring to break the unspoken rule. She felt tears welling up in her eyes, but forced them down. She would not let them see her cry. Her father pointed a shaking finger at her. "You will end this foolishness now, Ngozi. You are my daughter, and you will obey me. Do you understand?" Ngozi's heart felt like it was breaking. She opened her mouth to speak, but her father's glare silenced her. She wanted to tell him that she couldn't simply walk away from Emeka, that her love for him was stronger than the hate between their villages. But she knew those words would only make things worse. With a bowed head, she turned and walked away, her father's angry words echoing in her ears. Days passed, and her father refused to speak to her. Her mother, though more sympathetic, urged her to obey her father. "Ngozi, my child," she said gently, "love is powerful, but so is family honor. You must be careful." But Ngozi couldn't stop thinking about Emeka, couldn't shake the memory of his warm smile, his gentle words. They managed to meet in secret one evening under the wide canopy of a mango tree just outside the village. "Emeka, they found out," she whispered, her voice trembling. "My father, he told me to end it. He said I've shamed him." Emeka looked at her with a deep sadness in his eyes. "My family said the same. They told me that I'm betraying our people. But Ngozi," he reached out, taking her hand in his, "I can't give up on you." They stood there in silence, hand in hand, listening to the night sounds around them. In that moment, they felt like it was just the two of them against the world. As they stood beneath the mango tree, the world around them faded into silence. Ngozi leaned her head against Emeka's shoulder, savoring the warmth and comfort he gave her. She wished they could stay like this forever, free from the burden of family expectations and village histories that felt like chains binding them to a past they didn't belong to. "Emeka," she said softly, breaking the silence, "do you think there's a way we can make them understand? Maybe if they saw us together, saw how happy we are, they would accept it." Emeka sighed, a heavy sound that seemed to carry the weight of all their shared worries. "I won't believe that, Ngozi. I really do. But you know our families, our communities. They're stubborn, and to them, our love is unnatural, forbidden." Ngozi's eyes filled with tears, and she bit her lip to hold them back. She felt torn between the love she had for Emeka and the duty she owed her family. They were her blood, her people. Yet here was Emeka, the one who understood her in a way no one else did, the one who saw her heart for what it truly was. "Maybe," she said quietly, "maybe we should try one more time. Together." Emeka looked at her, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "You mean go to both of our families? Face them together?" "Yes," she replied, her voice firmer now. "If they see how serious we are, if they hear us out, maybe, just maybe, they'll realize we're not trying to shame them. We're trying to build something new, something better." Emeka nodded slowly. "All right, Ngozi, let's do it. If we stand together, they'll see we're willing to face whatever comes. We won't back down." They agreed to meet the next evening, to visit Ngozi's family first. As Ngozi walked home under the stars that night, she felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. For the first time, she felt that perhaps their love had a chance, a tiny spark of hope that could blaze into something brighter. The next evening, Emeka arrived just as the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow over the village. Ngozi's heart pounded as she led him toward her family's compound. The sight of Emeka walking beside her felt like both a comfort and a challenge. They were about to face their fears, together. Her mother was the first to see them. She stepped outside, her eyes widening as she took in the sight of Emeka, standing next to Ngozi. Without a word, she called for her husband. Moments later, Ngozi's father appeared, his face hardening instantly as his gaze fell on Emeka. His eyes flashed with anger, and he clenched his fists as if trying to hold back words that would scorch the air between them. "Papa," Ngozi began, her voice trembling. She took a deep breath, steadied herself, and continued, "Emeka and I are here because we want to speak to you. We want to explain, to show you that our love isn't meant to harm anyone. It's not about the past. It's about the future we want to build together." Her father's face turned to stone, his eyes narrowing as he looked from Ngozi to Emeka. "You think your love is greater than the blood spilled by his people? You think it's worth forgetting the pain our families have suffered? This foolishness ends now." Ngozi's heart sank, but Emeka took a step forward, his voice steady and respectful. "Sir, with all respect, I know the pain between our villages runs deep, but that pain belongs to a past that we were not part of. We want a chance to make things right, to show that love can heal what hate has broken. Give us a chance to prove that." Ngozi's father stared at Emeka in silence, his face unreadable. For a brief, hopeful moment, she thought he might understand, might see that their love was genuine and sincere. But then, with a cold, dismissive shake of his head, he spoke. "Young man, you have nothing to prove to me. My daughter's future is here, with her family, not with someone from a village that is taken from us. Ngozi, if you care about your family, if you care about your father, you will end this now. I forbid you to see him again." Ngozi felt tears prickling at her eyes. She wanted to plead with him, to make him see that love could be a bridge, not a barrier. But she saw the look in her father's eyes, one of pride, of hurt, of fierce loyalty to his village and his people. No words would change his mind. She turned to Emeka, whose face was a mix of sadness and quiet determination. He squeezed her hand, as if to tell her he understood, that he was still with her, even if the world seemed against him. Ngozi's mother stepped forward, her expression softer, more pained. "My daughter," she whispered, reaching out to touch Ngozi's shoulder. "Your father is trying to protect you. Love is beautiful, yes, but also brings pain when it goes against everything we stand for. Think carefully about what you're willing to lose." Emeka looked into Ngozi's eyes, and in that moment, she knew what she wanted. She didn't care about village boundaries, about old grudges, about rules set by generations past. She wanted Emeka, their love, and a future unburdened by the chains of history. But she also knew she could not turn her back on her family. "Not like this." "Ngozi," Emeka said softly, "I'll wait for you. Whatever you decide, know that I'll be here, hoping that one day we can have our chance." With a heavy heart, Ngozi nodded, her eyes filling with tears. She watched as Emeka walked away, his silhouette disappearing into the distance, leaving her standing alone with her family in the weight of an impossible choice. That night, as Ngozi lay in her bed, staring up at the ceiling, she wondered if love could truly conquer all, or some battles were meant to be fought in silence, with wounds that never fully healed. She knew one thing for certain. Her love for Emeka was a fire that no amount of family pressure could put out. But whether that fire could survive in the face of so much pain and opposition was a question she could not yet answer. In the weeks that followed, Ngozi and Emeka saw each other only from a distance. Their love reduced to silent glances across crowded marketplaces and brief, stolen moments in the shadows of village gatherings. Every time she saw him, her heart ached with the weight of everything they couldn't have, everything they could have built together if only their families and villages allowed it. Then one evening, Ngozi's father called her into the family hut. He sat cross-legged on the mat, looking tired and older than she'd ever seen him. The once stern, unbending man now had lines of worry etched deep into his face, and his eyes were softer, weary. "Ngozi," he began slowly, "do you understand why I've been so hard on you?" She nodded, but her heart still hurt. "Yes, Papa. You believe the past is too painful to let go. You want to protect me." Her father nodded, his eyes distant. "My own father lost his land, his pride, to Emeka's people. I grew up with the burden of that loss, and so I have carried it all my life, thinking that I was guarding my family by holding on to that pain. But now, I wonder if I was wrong. Perhaps this grudge is a poison that has only harmed us further. Perhaps I am keeping alive a war that ended long ago." Ngozi's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected these words, hadn't imagined her father would even consider questioning the beliefs he had held so firmly. "Papa, if you believe that, then let me and Emeka be the ones to bridge the gap. Let us be the ones to heal what was broken." Her father sighed deeply, the weight of years of bitterness falling from his shoulders. "Love, my daughter, is a strange thing. It can be both a strength and a weakness. But perhaps when it is real, it becomes a strength greater than any grudge, stronger than any ancient feud." The next day, her father and a few village elders set off for Emeka's village, determined to meet with his family. It was the first time in decades that anyone from Ngozi's village had crossed the disputed boundary with peaceful intentions. Word spread quickly, and soon villagers gathered around, watching as the two sides faced each other, their expressions tense but hopeful. Ngozi and Emeka stood together, hand in hand, as their families talked. They heard stories of lost land and shattered pride, but also of dreams of the future. They saw their fathers, both hardened by years of mistrust, begin to soften as they saw their children's love as a symbol of healing. Finally, Emeka's father stepped forward, his voice rough but sincere. "Let us allow these children to build a bridge that we could not. Let them be the beginning of peace." Ngozi's father nodded, and in that moment, years of bitterness began to melt away. As the two fathers shook hands, it felt as though an invisible barrier had finally crumbled, and a new path opened between the two villages. Ngozi and Emeka embraced, overwhelmed with joy and relief, knowing that their love had not only brought them together, but had also given their families a chance to let go of the past. True love has the power to heal old wounds and bridge deep divides. When we let go of bitterness and the pain of the past, we open our hearts to a future filled with understanding, compassion, and unity. Holding on to grudges can keep us bound in chains, but love can break those chains, setting us free to live a life where peace triumphs over hatred.